Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. So, if you've been following the news lately, you might feel like we're just drowning in endless incremental AI model updates. But when you step back and look at the raw source material from this past week, a much bigger, much more fascinating narrative actually emerges. We are no longer just looking at software novelties or clever chatbots. We are witnessing the exact moment AI transforms into physical, global infrastructure. It's a huge shift. Okay, let's dive into our roadmap for today. We're going to cover AI enters the physical world, software, agents, and solopreneurs, powering the AI boom, big tech's shifting fortunes, security cracks in the system, and finally, the global regulatory race. Kicking things off with Section 1, AI enters the physical world. The brains finally meet the brawn. This is where the intelligence we've been building up in the cloud finally steps out into our physical environment. Google DeepMind just dropped Gemini Robotics 2, and it's a massive leap forward. They've deployed a 3-model suite that pushes AI way beyond basic tabletop tasks and right into full humanoid control. We're talking about a vision language action model. That means it can look at a problem, understand your spoken command, and physically move to fix it. And it's paired with an embodied reasoning model, or ER2, which lets these robots actually plan multi-step tasks and even coordinate with other robots. In the demo footage, we're literally seeing robots screw in light bulbs and tie garbage bags. Now, DeepMind's own figures do acknowledge these systems are still kind of slow when it comes to highly dexterous tasks, but the leap in capability is absolutely undeniable. But here is the number that completely blew my mind. Fewer than 200. That's it. That is all the demonstrations it takes for the on-device variant of this model to adapt to a completely new 2-arm robot body. This rapid, on-device physical learning speed matters immensely. Think about what that means for the future. The bottleneck for robotics is no longer years and years of custom coding, it's just a few hours of physically showing the robot what to do. Moving right along to Section 2, software, agents, and solopreneurs. Scaling the digital workforce. So while AI is out there getting a physical body, the software side is gaining this unprecedented independent power, and it's unlocking hidden potential incredibly fast. Take a look at this. Under the official harness, OpenAI's GPT 5.6 Sol scored a pretty measly 7.8% on the ARC AGI-3 benchmark. But simply by tweaking 2 settings, which is basically just giving the AI a scratchpad to keep its train of thought and summarizing past context, the model rockets up to 38.3%. That catapults it way past Claude Opus 5's 30.2%. The latent capability is already in there. We're just finally learning how to properly prompt the system to access it. So what does this actually mean for us in the real world? Well, according to recent data from Stripe, cited by the Wall Street Journal, we are seeing a massive shift in business models. Solo operators using these advanced AI tools are now successfully replacing entire small team editorial and operational setups. Get this, the number of single founder businesses generating over $10 million on Stripe has nearly tripled since 2023. This is huge because the barrier to building a massive enterprise is just evaporating. AI agents are acting as an infinitely scalable digital workforce for everyday solopreneurs. And guys, that scale is only going to accelerate from here. The Model Context Protocol, or MCP, just pushed its largest update yet, moving to a fully stateless protocol. In plain English, the AI no longer needs a continuous memory of your specific session to help you out. It can just grab any available server to answer a request. This means AI agents can now scale limitlessly across massive server farms without getting tripped up by all that complex session management. Which brings us to Section 3, powering the AI boom, the raw materials of intelligence. Think about it. If software agents and physical robots are scaling limitlessly, they need a staggering amount of raw resources to function. Brookfield and NextEra have just secured a massive deal to develop a $100 billion AI data center campus in Kentucky, right on a former Department of Energy site. They're targeting 1.2 gigawatts of compute by 2032. To put that into perspective for you, that is enough power to run a major city like San Francisco. Supported by 2 gigawatts of natural gas and massive battery storage, this isn't just your average server farm. This is literally the factory floor of the new AI industrial revolution, heavily backed by the federal government and creating 8,000 construction jobs. And inside those massive data centers, the demand for specialized silicon is absolutely exploding. ARM Holdings just reported over $2 billion in committed orders specifically for their AGI-targeted CPUs. It's just wild to realize that optimized data center silicon is now this massive standalone revenue driver. It's completely independent of whether you and I are buying new smartphones or laptops. even companies traditionally focused on other things are pivoting hard. Despite a slight recent earnings miss because of smartphone headwinds, Qualcomm is making super aggressive data center plays. They've acquired Modular and the Max platform. They're basically buying the software tools needed to make AI models run on any hardware, capturing this infrastructure boom and pushing toward a $5 billion data center revenue target. Everyone is rushing to lay bricks for this new AI factory. Let's move to Section 4 and see how this builds into big tech's shifting fortunes, the financial reality of the AI factory. These staggering costs of building out these factories are creating a massive financial divergence among big tech. The financial contrast we're seeing right now is just incredible. Microsoft is seeing compounding enterprise wins. Azure just crossed $100 billion in annual revenue for the first time. And strategically, their Anthropic stake gained $3.2 billion this quarter, even as their OpenAI position actually took a slight markdown. Contrast that with Meta. While Meta's revenue is up, their total costs surged 55% year over year. They've had to raise their AI capital expenditure floor to a jaw-dropping $130 billion, all while Reality Labs continues to lose over $4.5 billion a quarter. The bill for AI infrastructure is definitely coming due. And the entire market is holding its breath for the next big test. Apple and Amazon report earnings today. Investors are going to be laser-focused on whether Apple's AI features are actually driving services growth and whether Amazon's massive $200 billion AI infrastructure commitment is translating into real, scalable AWS revenue. All right, on to Section 5, security cracks in the system, vulnerabilities in the foundation. As these systems gain physical and financial scale, the structural vulnerabilities baked right into them are keeping operators awake at night. Case in point. Security researchers recently disclosed a self-propagating AI worm targeting Microsoft Copilot for Word. The worm uses hidden instructions inside untrusted documents to basically force the AI to replicate the attack and steal data. What's truly terrifying here is that this prompt injection chain survived both GPT 5.5 and 5.6 model upgrades. Why? Because it's a fundamental structural flaw. The system isn't properly sandboxing or isolating the AI from the application's core permissions. And when these systems are vulnerable, the blast radius is massive. A flaw in the Rooflow AI agent platform recently received a CVSS score of 10.0. That is the absolute highest severity level possible. A single web request, without even needing a password, was enough to execute malicious code and expose 233 tools on default deployments. You group that AI agent flaw with recent critical infrastructure vulnerabilities, like this newly disclosed Cisco network flaw that allows remote, unauthenticated logins, and a really grim picture emerges. Securing this new AI infrastructure is no longer a manageable scheduled patch cycle. Security teams are now engaged in what they're describing as a permanent, exhausting sprint. Finally, we reach Section 6, the global regulatory race, laying down the law. With massive scale and massive vulnerabilities colliding head-on, world governments are predictably scrambling to build, regulate, and control this booming industry. Over in Europe, there's a frantic push to close the infrastructure gap with the United States and China. The European Commission just opened a €10 billion bidding process to build 7 AI gigafactories. They are moving at lightning speed with awards expected by mid-2027. Each of these sites will be required to host at least 100,000 AI chips. That is roughly 4 times the scale of any existing EU data center today. But building the infrastructure is only half the battle, right? Regulating its behavior is the other. The source material outlines 2 very different approaches here. In the US, a White House deadline just arrived for a classified benchmarking process to identify which models require mandatory federal safety reviews, especially in light of all these recent industry breaches. Meanwhile, China has implemented the world's first binding regulatory framework exclusively for AI agents. They've established highly specific tiered autonomy rules, they've mandated AI disclosure at the start of sessions, and notably, they've completely banned emotional companion services for minors. It is a sharp contrast in how different jurisdictions are attempting to lay down the law. Which brings us to the end of this explainer, leaving us with a truly critical question. AI is no longer just a fun novelty. It's scaling into a physical, autonomous, trillion-dollar industrial complex. But as this growth accelerates, will it be the heavy hand of global regulation or the terrifying reality of structural security flaws that ultimately bottlenecks our progress? The source material suggests this collision is already happening. Thanks so much for explaining this with me today, and I'll catch you on the next explainer.